Welcome disc golf fans to BellCo Productions presentation of the Lake Marshall Open. This is a PDGA B tier in Montross, Virginia, presented by Knowledge Management Incorporated. Additionally, we want to thank Rice Properties Group and the Loco Disc Golf Club for sponsoring this video coverage, and the Nova Disc Golf Association for sponsoring the Lair course for this tournament. I'm Andrew Fish, joined in the booth by Zach Melton.
What's up, everybody?
So this is the second of 3 courses on the property. I hope you got to see round 1 and coming up round 3 on the Lions. The Lair is kind of an advanced level course that has some elevation. It's got a lot of tight woods lines, and it certainly incorporates the lake. What are you looking forward to, Zach?
Looking forward to seeing some good shots in the woods. The Lair is quite different than the Lions. We're going to be seeing our players hit some gaps today and have to deal with some, difficult lives. So we're going to see some scramble golf.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've jumped out to a 1-stroke lead over Matt Hammersten. Matt is sponsored by Latitude 64, and it's pretty local to this area.
Yeah, our next player is Timmy Lutz. Him and his family moved down into the Southwest Virginia area. They are part of my local club, and they just love to play disc golf. He's a young up-and-comer.
Yeah, first time on film from what I understand. And we're also going to see Cody Bradshaw, who we saw just make some great putts for par and birdie in round 1.
Yeah, that's kind of what Cody does. He's a fantastic putter.
So hole 1, going to be lake on the left, and the entire fairway slopes from right down to left. Pretty challenging to land your drive cleanly and then get an upshot.
Yeah, I think the difficulty on this hole is you're almost never all the way at the top of the hill on your drive, so your upshot, you're having to control the angle over the hill and then going back down towards the lake. So it's very difficult. You have to have touch.
Yeah, absolutely. Forehand and backhand, both spins work fairly well on this drive. But, it's really key to bite off enough where your second shot is manageable.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to do this.
Throw it up the right side, through everything.
Matt Hammersten.
It was fortunate to punch through that first little wall.
Yeah.
If it stops there, you're looking at a lot of distance to the basket.
Definitely. So. You definitely take birdie out of play by that point. So Matt Hammersten plays mostly regionally, and if you haven't seen him play before, very expert at mid-range angles, deliberate player. He's kind of robotic. He's not going to blow you away with distance, but he's going to put himself in position a lot.
Yeah, he's going to take all 35 seconds of his time every time.
Right, and that is the official PDGA rule.
Next on the tee from Abingdon, Virginia.
He kind of hits a little early and doesn't punch through, so you're going to see him having to bite off a lot more fairway than I am. But.
Yeah. And our first look at Timmy. I think he's got the best hair on the card. No questions asked.
I mean, we could take a vote on that, but he is a very positive kid. Very positive. You're never going to see him get down, whether he's playing poorly or great. He's always got a smile on his face, so that's always good to see.
Yeah, for sure. And Cody looking to work his buzz again.
Over here practicing the hole for an hour.
Pretty good shape, maybe too much height.
Pretty good.
And that's going to trickle down towards the left side.
Yeah, definitely the best drive of the group, and if it had been a little lower, I think he would have pushed towards the crest of the hill.
Right.
Yeah, as you're going to see, Timmy has a very powerful sidearm. Very smooth.
Yeah, from what I've seen so far, it's like really easy gas. He doesn't put a whole lot of work into it to go far.
Nice. Middle.
And hammer from that right side. Seems like he kicked across the fairway. He'll be working hard to save his 4.
Yeah, the rough is tight, and then you're also going to notice all these holly trees and bushes, and they are no joke.
I think that's a very intentional design that they put here. The fairway is clean. If you put yourself in the fairway, you always have a shot. But if you get off the fairway, the rough is real. They want you to have to work through that kind of natural OB.
Yeah, and they want fairway to be rewarding. So
Hammer with a little heart flex approach. Nicely done.
it's fun to see him add that shot to his bag in the last year or so. Nice little finessey forehand. That's something he didn't have initially and has worked for.
Ooh, Timmy scares it a little bit. Yeah, I think Hammer has worked so hard on that he might even be more comfortable with a forehand touchy approach than a backhand.
And I was definitely giving that a bid. My roller kind of escape shot was better than I could have imagined and got a look, and I thought, well, you got to run this.
So Cody's also going to do the same. Comes up a little low. Did y'all feel like you had a good angle, or was the lake behind, was that a consideration?
I think the angle helped because we were kind of left side on the hill.
Okay.
So the lake was more on our left than behind. And I think that definitely helped. Helped for me. And Cody he's an aggressive putter. I think that we'll see. So if he can, he's almost always going to run it.
Yeah. Probably some jitters there from Timmy. Like we said, first time on camera. And, even now, sometimes I get a little nervous thinking about the tens of people who are going to be watching me on YouTube later.
The tens. He was definitely nervous. He brought it up. He mentioned his first time on camera, but he handled it well.
Yeah, if you own that, it can help.
Hole 2, this is Thomas's hole. He was a friend of the landowner. He was helping out on the layer course when he had an unexpected stroke in his home. He's okay, but unfortunately he was unable to finish the course he enjoyed so much.
Well, we thank Thomas. We're thinking about him, and this hole is a pretty good memoriam then. Birdie Bid, securely buy and sell new and used equipment on a site dedicated to disc golf. Whether you're a collector, custom dyer, or a golfer looking to shop savvy, check out birdiebid.com, a PayPal-supported site.
Good shot. Nice. I think so. Good looking shot. Thanks.
I like that. You're throwing pretty fast, something that moves a little bit left to right during its flight.
Yes, I go fairway, kind of like 70-ish%. That's a straight fairway, so it's going to have a little finish, but it's not super overstable.
I didn't hear anything.
And I kind of just like not having to throw really firm over the hill.
Definitely. So the deceptive part about this hole is that you can't see the basket, you can't see your landing zone. You can kind of see a couple trees that are left of the basket. So we saw Cody sneak over the hill, but then find the second cove and land out of bounds. Hammer carries that to about circle's edge left.
Yeah, that second cove is dangerous because as a righty, if you're throwing a backhand at least, if it comes out of that turnover angle at all, it kind of brings it into play.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see that ease of forehand power that Timmy gets.
Yeah, I'm almost positive he likes to forehand a Wraith a lot.
Okay.
And Wraiths have a lot of glide, and he's got that one flying exactly how he wants. Oh, bummer. No, that was definitely a committed putt by Hammer. It's kind of hard to go long outside the circle on this hole.
Yeah, for sure. I find you can do it like at the basket on the pine needles, but he just kind of sailed to that fringe of rough. Cody with a solid bogey putt there.
Yeah, definitely nice to put that in after he ran the park save.
Right, and let's get Timmy on the board here. Had a kid.
Nice birdie, putting a judge in the basket. I may or may not have given those to him. There are a couple of old first-round judges that were Weston Isaacs from
Nice.
like 8 years ago.
So plenty of putts already in the basket there. Hole 3, very short par 4.
Yeah, short, but very specific where you need to be. The rough is thick on the left. The right is a little thinner. I think this kind of backdoor alley has opened up, and then you want to punch up this road and hit this green, which is a little guarded but kind of forgiving. You know, there's room both left and right to still have a putt.
Right. I think as long as you get around the corner and get maybe a little more, there should be an alley to the basket. I see you're kind of taking that outside route.
Yeah, it's kind of opened up over time the last couple of years, and it's easy to get a little more distance that way, but then your upshot is a little trickier, but it's kind of like if you are comfortable with it, you can kind of scramble for the birdie.
Right. Timmy goes for maybe a more aggressive play, a flex forehand through the inside. He does catch the middle trees, so that taps him down. Hammer with the inside route looks like a mid-range play. I think the mid is a fairly common way if you're, not trying to give yourself a half eagle bid at this.
Yeah, I think you can go mid pretty comfortably and just play for birdie. Cody hit a little early, and I think he was going for a pretty big shot here to save the birdie.
Oh wow!
And
that's a hard boost left.
And he just started laughing immediately. He was like, "Oh my!" That kicked really far left, towards another hole on the course.
Yeah, I think when you're a local, you kind of assume the worst when you go towards the rough.
Yeah, I think it's going to actually save him that he kicked almost through the rough, and he found a little access road that they drive the gator around to do work on the course.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, because he was pretty worried while Timmy and Matt were throwing their shots, but he goes over and finds it, and he's like, "Easy par."
Sure.
Yeah.
Take it where you can. Couple good approaches there. Zach, looks like you're going justice. And are you throwing back into the fairway here?
Yeah, I'm off into the right rough and just kind of punching into the fairway with an overstable disc, letting it pan, and it's pretty routine to have that type of shot coming back.
Yeah, okay. And Cody putting himself in position for that easy par.
Yeah, he was pretty happy to have that access road.
Well, at least you hit something.
Timmy staring that band down. He's been all over the basket so far through 3 holes.
Yeah.
Nobody's parred from over there.
Cody with a miracle par. I'm pretty sure when that first upshot kicked, I told him it was an easy 6, but he proved me wrong.
It's like gaining 2 strokes on projection then. Hammer with a good birdie. And you as well.
Yeah, I feel like hole 3 is it kind of feels like a gimme. You don't feel good when you don't birdie this hole, but it does still. You can't really relax. It takes 2 good shots.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that aesthetic. Hole 4. This one's all about speed control. It's right ahead of you, 189 feet. Probably plays more in the 150 range, but if you go much beyond it, it falls off very steeply.
Yeah, big steep bank behind it, drops off. You're almost guaranteed not to have a putt.
So I expect to see a couple different options here. Some players like to take a little over-the-top route with a thumber or something silly like that.
Yeah, it kind of shows you how tight this gap is that players, myself included, who are not overhand players, take an overhand route.
Yeah, and very technical woods players. So there you go. That's going to stick you at circle's edge maybe?
Yeah, just a little outside, which is pretty common when I take this route.
It's a pretty good way to get yourself, 60% of the way there reliably. Whereas this early gap, as Timmy absolutely pures it.
Just so good.
Love it. That early gap, we're going to hit it most of the time.
Yeah.
The rest of the time, you're barely off the tee.
Thanks.
And very nice by Cody. He's going to be level with the basket.
Yeah, Cody has a nice thumber play. He, unlike myself and Hammer, he actually uses it for real.
Okay, you feel invincible 2 down through 3.
Definitely feel like the basket's pretty big. And I kind of like to run this putt if I get within about 35, 40 usually. And I committed.
To what? What did you commit to?
I committed to a comeback putt. it had some want on it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got it chain high. Little straddle around this tree as well?
Yeah, it was definitely a lefty putt. Thankfully, I do putt with the wrong hand, so that tree was in the way, blocking like right side of the basket.
Yeah,
but
gets you in trouble with, scissors and everyday appliances, but works out for you there.
Exactly.
Wow.
Maybe just a little high and left, but that was a solid putt by Timmy. I
Yeah.
know he wanted that birdie. He definitely threw the hole better than the rest of us.
Yeah, and perhaps the way it was intended to be thrown.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I don't think they envisioned an overhand 189-foot hole, but
Yeah, so like the Lions and the Lambs course, this was designed by Trey Hamlet with some collaboration with John Biscoe. And those guys really nailed it. And I think this hole is another really good example of the found art that they had to work with in designing.
yeah, hole 5 has a beautiful green. I love kind of the humps on the way to the green. This hole is nicknamed Dirty Laundry. There was an old washing machine in the ravine behind the basket that they just discovered while designing the course.
Flip. Flip.
So backhand and forehand both work pretty well here. The idea is to do that.
Do
jam
exactly
it in, jam it into the front side of the hill and let the speed take all the speed off of it that way.
Yeah, it's pretty common for guys to hit that green and just slide off the back and have that super uphill putt.
You were heading that way until you
was-
tagged a tree.
Yeah, I thought for sure. I was like, well, way to throw it 3 feet above Cody's line, you know.
Oh wow! Hammer finds the guardian tree of the hole.
Yeah, I really liked the angle of that disc as it was flying. It was just the one tree he needed to miss. He did not.
I didn't know you flip that much.
And Timmy going to leave himself one valley short of excellent.
Yeah, he kind of overpowered that disc a little bit. It's kind of funny that disc that Matt threw, I believe, is a compass. And it's one that he's been having a pretty funny relationship with. It's what went from flying perfect to being extremely unstable to him throwing it in this round and talking about how it was very unstable, and then it didn't actually flip for him on this hole. So he thought about just leaving it during the round. He's like, this guy won't listen to anything I say.
So there's the hazard of scooting long, as we see Timmy probably putting higher than the actual distance of the putt.
Very impressive putt, dead center, best putt he's hit all round.
Yeah.
And he's smiling, always.
Clean up for Hammer, and we'll let you guys go now.
Where?
Yeah, Cody suckered me into a $1 side bet.
About who was closer?
Yeah, for sure. He could see my disc. I had already walked back to my bag. I was like, oh, I'm for sure closer. And then we get up there, and he's like literally underneath it. Greatest shot I've ever seen.
Oh, you were. I tried.
So you'll take your dollar out of him by messing with him.
Exactly.
Hole 6. I'm a big fan of this hole. It's going to slope from right down to left, and you need to throw some kind of multi-angle shot. You can't just jam a hyzer at this.
Yeah, this hole takes 2 different angles. You know, it's pretty unique hole and hard to get for the distance that it is.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest guidepost that you can see is an enormous beech tree that's about midway down the hole, and you need to be breaking right at that tree in order to fly the fairway cleanly.
Yeah, it's really fun to play a 300-foot hole that would typically feel like a gimme, but it's so challenging.
And I think it also doesn't favor righties or lefties very much. Because you can throw this kind of hyzer, try to push deep into the fairway. You come up a little bit short. Or righties can throw this turnover shot with a backhand.
Yeah, I actually prefer to go sidearm on this hole, but I happen to lake my go-to on. Oh wow! And Hammer was just trying to get out of here with a 1.
Right? Did that tag a chain on the way by?
I think we heard some metal.
Back door.
I was trying to ask him on the tee box. He's like, I don't care.
All right, putt.
Can't appreciate a nice thing.
Nope. Timmy had 1 tree to miss, and I think that was under the bucket.
Mm-hmm. Cody from looks like a 1 million feet away once you factor in the elevation.
Yeah, and you almost always expect him to make it.
Good bid there. I like Timmy's spin putt.
I do too. It's kind of like it kind of looks like it's a pitch putt kind of up and down, but it's just a lot of spin right from his waist.
Mm-hmm.
Just, exaggerated follow through right at the basket. And I had to big putt him, but
Yeah, after he had putted.
Exactly, which doesn't make sense, but
All right, Hammer full routine.
Yeah, probably 48 seconds into it.
Yeah, it's a good thing they clipped the video.
And he makes it like a good robot does.
Okay, a couple birdies, couple pars. Nicely done on hole 6. That's going to bring us to hole 7. We're throwing from the open and what seems like a very exposed tee down a very steep hill. This is always one of the harder holes on the layer course. I think it was second most difficult in this round for the MPO.
Yeah, there's major trouble to the right early. If you can punch into the gap and fly majority of the fairway, par is pretty manageable, but trouble can be found. It's not crazy to end up with a 5 on this par 3.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen every number from 2 to 7 maybe. So gap control initially is the real key. You kind of don't know what the disc is going to do late. And it's common to funnel to one of the creeks to either side of the green.
Yeah, I think to really pure the hole, you kind of start at left and then it drifts to the right, like a righty backhand would with like a kind of a slightly understable putter.
Mm-hmm.
I just play it a backhand to finish right and hopefully have a putt, but I'm never upset with par on this hole.
No. Hammer gets most of the way down there. He's probably in automatic layup territory. You just try to base that enormous rock underneath the basket.
Yeah, this green feels more elevated than it actually looks. It kind of slopes on both sides. There's a creek on both sides, and then with the basket sitting on that rock, it gives it just a slightly unnormal feel compared to some of the other greens.
Mm-hmm. Is this the first backhand we've seen out of Timmy?
First backhand, and he's got a good one, but he's pretty comfortable with the sidearm in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And I can relate to that because I feel the same way. I love being able to see the gap, throwing a forehand versus turning away with the backhand, so I definitely get that.
Cody with a pretty good approach, likely to be in the creek, either wet feet or weird footing.
Yeah, he ended up in the creek pin high, so great upshot, but a little bit of an obstructed putt.
Definitely. Hammer, like we're saying, scoots it up to the rock. Low stress 3 from there.
Yeah, at this point in the round, I'm feeling pretty good, and I think this should be layup territory, but the basket was looking pretty big, so I decided to get a little greedy.
That's an impossible amount of greed from there. And it does slope beyond the basket, so as slow as that came in, it's still minimum 20 feet, yeah?
Yeah, it was a kind of a half-half, like, didn't go guns a-blazing at it because you can end up with a circle's edge putt back. And it took Cody a couple minutes to get his footing right, but I'm glad he made it because he made us wait on him.
Yeah, for folks at home, there's 2 things. If you're going to take your time, you better make it. Otherwise, you're just, you're making your card mates late for dinner.
And you're going to get roasted on commentary.
Correct. and y'all just can't stop messing with each other?
Hammer asked to use my putter to tap out, and then he just wouldn't putt. I'm like waiting to grab it, and I'm like, well, we have to tap out eventually.
Whose time does that count against?
I
guess
think,
you're the lead card, so nobody's waiting behind you.
yeah, I volunteered to take it because I didn't think he needed any more time.
Fair,
with his
fair.
shots.
So hole 8, super uphill. Again, a par 4 under 500, but it's a full tug to get up here.
Yeah, I would say the hole almost plays closer to 6. At least it feels like the first shot is a full throw uphill with like a fairway. Some people throw driver, try to get all the way to the gap.
Birdie Bid's competitive pricing means more money for you on either end of the transaction. With lower fees than eBay or Etsy, you'll get more for your money at Birdie Bid. So aside from making this gap, I think the lefty play is nice here because a right finish on the end of your shot opens up the angle to the green a little better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the more right you get, the more like a higher chance you have to see the basket. Because it's not uncommon to have a blind approach to this green.
Absolutely. Cody, seems like that got pulled inside a ways.
It pulled inside and it actually kicked way back down the hill to the left.
Yikes. Yeah, kid's got a backhand. He pushes it up the hill.
He has a backhand. It's very smooth like his sidearm.
Mm-hmm.
Cody went forehand roller and made great progress up to where you want a tee shot to land, so he's got a chance to save his par.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful. So I find this this basket placement to be pretty deceptive. You can't really see the base of it, and there's no trees immediately around it, which it's hard to get context for how far it is.
Yeah, I think that's a sneaky good design, because if it had been on the crest where we could see it, I think that second shot would feel automatic.
Absolutely. And were you like half running that?
I was kind of half running it. The basket was looking really big, and you know sometimes when you're in the groove.
Yeah, Timmy getting himself back to even on the round. That's great.
Yeah, he's hit some big putts so far.
Hammer with the same good square center putt.
Yeah, Hammer is just a fantastic putter. If you've never seen him play, it's almost always on the pole.
Mm-hmm. And good for you. Going to get 3 birds on the hole.
Yeah, Cody ruined that star frame, but if you could have seen where his drive was, you know how far down the hill, how uphill that played. Like 4 was fantastic.
And yeah, ruin the star frame, but all things considered, 4 is not bad. Hole 9, I think this is one of the harder and most technical holes on the property, let alone the lair course.
Yeah, it has a very unique shape, because the tee shot is fairly common. You just want to throw a straight shot that finishes to the right a little, but then this second shot goes extremely downhill, right to left. So you've got to control the angle, and you've got to get your disc to hit the brakes towards the bottom of the hill, or you can go long into these holly bushes.
Absolutely, and it seems like you're throwing a hyzer, but if you do that, you're liable to end up too far left.
Yeah, with an obstructed putt.
Whoa!
And that was really bad.
Yeah, that's a big time yank.
Big yank, big kick left after the yank. I'm in Nowheresville.
So Hammer hoping to capitalize on that. You've opened up a little bit of a lead midway through this round.
Yeah, definitely had played pretty solid through 8 holes. But I think this course will show you can be punished. One bad shot can be punished pretty bad. So
yeah, Hammer kicks all the way back across the fairway to follow you.
Yeah, he kind of likes me. He wants to follow me around a little
Yeah,
bit.
he might not be in Nowheresville, but he's in an adjacent zip code.
Timmy showing off the power with the forehand and showing that you can actually push a little too deep.
Yeah, he's probably no more than 10 feet left of an ideal landing spot on the hole.
Oh, for sure. If he was 10 feet right, he would like be in the gap, just standing downhill at the basket. I'm having to do what I call my go-to move and put it vertical and send it.
Sure.
And I could see that big white tree in the sunlight. And I was like, all right, just miss it. And I squared it.
Hammer also having to do something fancy to try to get out.
I'm actually still in the woods with him. We were talking about it. He's like, was that good? And I was like, I don't think so.
Cody, very aggressive play.
Very.
Somewhere between a roller and thrower.
Yeah, I think he just said he was going to throw it hard. He was out of position, could have just laid up to then have the normal approach, but he just sent it. And it didn't hurt him this time.
Yeah, there's some freedom in that occasionally. So you're going to work your third with a forehand flex to try to push the tunnel.
Yeah, and I didn't hate it.
Yeah, that's a stroke saver. Holy cow. Inside the circle putting.
There was almost something kind of, like you said, freeing about being all the way on the left side of the landing zone. I just got to send it towards the gap.
And Hammer, it seems like he missed the true gap and is now going to have to fight through the woods.
Yeah, left side shul, on the second half of the hole is very rough.
Yeah, some parts of this property have been beaten down a little bit where common filters are, but it seems like the second half of this left side is, untrammeled.
Yeah, you don't want to be there. I've been there before in years past, and it's just, I kind of refer to it as poke your eyes outville.
Yes,
Yeah.
And we see that with Hammer throwing
Through a wall.
through a wall with a forehand roller and a pretty good outcome to circle's edge.
Nice. Nice.
Probably the first layup I've ever seen from Cody. Known him for like 10 years. Timmy found the holly bushes.
Oh, wow.
And he gave that such a good bid.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow, that's so much work to get a 5. Nicely done by Hammer.
Like you're taking a bogey, which is never good, but if you play the hole, you would just understand how good that bogey is from early left.
And to one-up him, there's you with your par from about the same starting location.
Yeah, I just threw one less bad shot. I was really hoping Timmy would get that birdie.
Yeah, the drive just about earned it, let alone the upshot. All right, well, thank you so much for watching. Thank you to our sponsors, especially Knowledge Management Incorporated, the Rice Properties Group and Loco Disc Golf Club, and the Nova Disc Golf Association for sponsoring the Lair course. For Zach Melton, I'm Andrew Fish.
Catch you on the back nine.